Hello, and welcome back to your South King County Real Estate Update. My name is Sarah Eggleston with Stone Egg Realty at John L. Scott, and I'm back with your local real estate news for South King County. I'll go ahead and jump into the slides because there's a lot to cover today. There was a ton of real estate stuff in the news this week. So it is April 15th. I can't believe we're already this far through the year. It's crazy, but Mariners schedules are in. They should be heading out soon. Those of you that are on my little physical mailing list will receive one of these shortly. But if you haven't received a schedule in the past and would like one, then just shoot me a message. Let me know how I can get it to you, and it's yours. I have plenty of extras. And what happened this week? So this week, yesterday was a very exciting day. My buyers got to close on their property. We were extended for a single day because it was because of a lack of communication for all the parties involved in the transaction. It's just one little thing that got missed, but ended up having to have the buyer's documents redrafted for the loan to show to account for the HOA dues. It was the HOA dues were missed on some of the stuff. It's a PUD or a planned unit development that they bought into. So there is a couple extra steps that need to happen, and that just got missed. So we had to extend for a single day and closed yesterday. Got to give keys, and that is always that's like my favorite part of my job. It really is to hand keys over to a new buyer and just see the look on their face as they're going through the property and it's theirs. Super exciting. So that was definitely the highlight of my week. But I'll just jump right back into these slides since there is so much to cover. So this one, mainly just a fun article, but if you would like to purchase Russell Wilson's home, you can do so for $28 million. It's listed at $28 million. There's also a parcel next to it that is $8 million. So for the whole thing, $36 million. So the monthly payment for the $36 million would be $172,000 a month. For just the home, if you choose not to purchase the parcel with it, the monthly payment would be about $148,000 per month. So if you have those funds on hand, please give me a call. I would love to show you around Russell Wilson's home and put that offer in for you. 6 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms, and he purchased it in 2015 for $6.7 million. So I would say that's a pretty good return on investment there. Numerous challenges for home buyers this spring season. This came out a couple days ago, and there was another article that was similar, but went into a lot more depth. This article really kind of summarized everything, so I thought it was perfect for this show. So demand's been super strong for the past couple of years now. There's a lot of things this spring that are going to pose as challenges for home buyers. Unfortunately, we have about a 1.7 month supply. This is a national article, by the way. So these are national numbers. 870,000 homes are on the market as of the end of February. And that is just above the record low set a month earlier. So we have about 1.7 month supply. And despite those softer sales, we have seen this strong imbalance between supply and demand. Demand is super outweighing the supply. So home prices have jumped 15% in February from a year earlier. This is a US average for the whole country. It's been a lot more in some places like here. Buyers are expected not only to come up with a sizable down payment, usually between 5 and 10% is the minimum in this market that we've been seeing in the past couple months. Also, extra money on hand to cover a home appraisal gap. This actually came into play on the home that we just closed on. The buyer planned to put 20% down for the home, but in our offer, we decided to put 10% down, because you can always put more than you have in the contract, but you can't put less. So we put 10% down and put 10% as an appraisal gap. We knew that the home was not going to appraise for over that appraisal gap. That would have been shocking. But we put that in there just to be like, hey, unless something really crazy happens, we will cover the appraisal gap and move forward with the purchase. So, and I was told by the listing agent that our offer probably wouldn't have gotten accepted had we not included that contingency in our offer. 16% of homes sold in January and February for more than their appraised value. So 16% of homes had a low appraisal, and that is never fun for a buyer, for a seller. If the appraisal gap contingency is in there, it's less of a concern for the seller, but often leads to another point of negotiation in the transaction. And the average rate on a home loan has climbed to around 4.7% from just above 3% a year ago. And this article, as I said, was a couple days ago, and I believe this is the weekly average. So we'll get more into the mortgage rates in a minute, but just know that it has gone up since then. US inflation jumped 8.5% in the last year, highest since 1981. So inflation is higher than it's been in 40 years. Food, gas, homes, whether you're renting or purchasing, and pretty much everything else has increased. Consumer price index jumped 8.5% in March from 12 months earlier. And that is the sharpest year-over-year increase since 1981. So since 40 years. It's been quite a while since we've had prices rise this quickly. A lot of it in the beginning of the inflation was due to supply chain issues, people not being able to get the amount of supplies they needed or the supplies they needed to build something else. It was just kind of a supply chain issue, but that has grown in its net. And we have Russia's war against Ukraine that has really changed prices a lot too. Both for food and energy. From February to March, inflation rose 1.2%, the biggest month-to-month jump since 2005. Gas prices were significantly responsible for that. So gas prices are up 48%. Used car prices have gone up 35%. Bedroom furniture is up almost 15%. Men's suits and coats up 14.5%. 18% increases for bacon and oranges. You can see it is very item specific on how much the prices are increasing, but pretty much everything has increasing prices at this point. So the March inflation numbers were the first numbers to capture the Russian invasion on Ukraine. February's numbers did not reflect the gas price increase, didn't affect anything with the Russia-Ukraine war effect on pricing. March, we have all of that feeding into our inflation numbers. Everything's increasing as energy prices. And really, this is a huge potential threat to the economy's durability, especially the gas increases. We talked about this last week as well. Some other economists are suggesting inflation is at its peak. So we've had the Fed start raising rates. So all of these things are starting to come into play to combat inflation. So we may have seen its peak. We do expect the Fed to sharply raise the rates going forward. This is something that could cause a bit of a recession. Yeah, so this is just what I said. Many economists say they worry that the Fed has waited too long to begin raising rates and might end up acting so aggressively as to trigger a recession. And this is something we've seen. They were going to raise rates a half point last month, but they only raised them a quarter point. There's a lot of people saying that was a mistake. Really, they should have been raising rates sooner, before the war and all these other influences were impacting our inflation, but they didn't. And now they have to make a really quick correction. So that could trigger a recession throughout the US, possibly by the end of the year or beginning of next year. Rising inflation means home buyers will be looking for homes that are $40,000 cheaper. So this is a continuation of that last bit, but this is from the National Association of Realtors. So it's got a little bit more of a housing twist to it. The increased cost of spending for things that people regularly purchase monthly has gone up. We have a graph here. The total expenditure in 2021 for these items was $160 per month, and we're up to $511. Energy greatly increased. Commodities that aren't food and energy greatly increased. Shelter greatly increased. Food increased not as much of a percentage, and services other than shelter and energy also increased. Everywhere increased across the board. So this is kind of what we're looking at here. So if we take the present value by applying a mortgage rate of 4.72, which this came out a couple days ago, things have changed, get to that in a minute. Basically, if you take all of these extra expenses and take them out of your monthly payment, you're looking at a home that is $41,793 cheaper. Lawrence Yun, the chief economist from the National Association of Realtors, said that with the rising inflation, higher mortgage rates, tight supply, housing demand is expected to decrease in 2022, but home prices are still expected to increase. And I haven't showed this chart, this graph, in a long time because it wasn't really showing that much that was interesting. It was just gradually going up and starting to follow the normal trends again. But you can see that recently, since the beginning of April, we've had, this is buyers viewing homes nationwide, North America, and that has ticked down significantly when we would expect it to go the other direction because of the interest rates and lack of supply and all of that. So, and that brings us to our market stat minute. We had 717 new listings, 863 pendings, and 658 sold in King County. I did enlarge the graph here so that we could see what is happening, especially with new listings and pendings. The gray line is sold. That is a lagging number because if it's selling now, it went pending a few weeks ago, probably. But you can see that there was a tick down in our pended listings, but a huge drop in new listings, which is the exact opposite of what we'd expect to see this time of year. But this is leading into Easter weekend, so that could have something to do with it. People may be expecting fewer buyers to be out and about on Easter weekend. So they decided if they were planning on listing this week, maybe they decided to postpone a week and list next weekend. So my prediction is that we'll see this bounce back up next week after the holiday. I actually did remember to take a snapshot on Wednesday earlier in the week. So you can see the difference of when new listings start to come on. New listings kind of start to come on Wednesday, Thursday, maybe early Friday. And a lot of them have review dates set for early the next week. So this Wednesday is just as a few new listings are coming on. Some of them are going off. So you can see there's a huge difference between the new listings and pending compared to what we see here on a Friday. So I just wanted to point that one out really quick. And for our local area breakouts for Renton, Kent, we did have fewer new listings than pendings, although Kent is much more extreme. So there's a little less to choose from in Kent heading into this weekend. Federal Way is outpacing the pendings quite a bit, but again, Auburn is lagging the new listings are lagging the pendings. So Federal Way is our only area that has more new listings than pendings heading into the weekend. So there might be a little more to choose from in Federal Way. And last week, our weekly average mortgage rate was 4.72. And this week, we have topped that 5% mark officially, even on our weekly average. So this is the first time in more than a decade that we have actually tipped the 5% mark for more than like a day. We've been predicting rates to go up for quite a while, and then the pandemic happened, so they didn't go up, and like all of these things prevented rates from going up for so long that it is no surprise now that we are hitting that 5% mark. And inflation it's at a 4-decade high. We can only expect rates to go up from here. And we're just heading into that spring buying season. Since the beginning of the year, rates have climbed from about 3% to 5%. And this is the fastest jump since the 80s. Such a sudden jump in borrowing costs in a market where buyers across the nation are already struggling to afford a home would normally spell doom for home sales and housing prices. But in this unusual pandemic recovery economy of rising rates, supply chain disruptions, and enormous changes in how Americans live and work, it's unclear how significant of a difference the higher rates will make. I don't expect buyer demand to disappear by any means. Home means so much more to people now than it did pre-pandemic. So they're willing to spend more of their income on housing to be in a comfortable living situation, maybe have that extra home office or homeschooling room just in case they go remote again or what have you. People are living differently in their homes than they did pre-pandemic. So there is just a higher demand. People are seeing these larger homes further outside the city, going, I want my kid to run around and moving out and commuting in if they have to, but that's often fewer times per week than it would have been in the past. Economists generally believe rising rates will cool the market a little, at least compared to the past 2 years of double-digit price gains. Indeed, there were some early indications that expensive markets on the East and West coasts are already seeing a slight decline in buyer interest. With these rising interest rates, that basically just means that people who are searching for a home, their budget is going, if they're using a loan anyway, the budget at which they're shopping at is going to decrease. So if they're shopping at, 500 before, maybe they're shopping at 450 or 425 now. And those homes have increased in value. So the home that was listed at 450 a year ago is looking much different than a home that's listed at 450 now. So the typical home buyer's payment has gone up 35% in just a few weeks due to these higher interest rates. And as I said before, that comes on top of food, gas, cars, furniture, and everything else increasing in price. According to Redfin, home buyer demand has declined 3% over the past month. This is something that I have started to see and hear. I'm talking to some other agents that hosted open houses the past couple weekends. It has been way slower. It was way slower on open houses last weekend than it has been the rest of the year. So we are seeing boots on the ground differences on traffic through houses, how many offers are being issued on houses, and that sort of thing. And this is actually from yesterday because they hadn't issued today's rates yet when I checked right before I went live. So it's at 5.15 as of yesterday. Mortgage News Daily, their guesses on mortgage rates or their stats, I guess, seem to be slightly lower than some other sources. I know they take it each day. So this is really nice because it's an accurate comparison day to day of what direction rates are going. But I've heard different stats of where we're at right now, all the way up to 5.5 quoted from a local lender. And that is with a pretty good credit score. And just one last plug. This will probably be the last time I mention this, but my spring 2022 buyer and seller guides are available. So reach out if you would like to peruse one. If you're thinking about buying or selling this year, then I think it is absolutely a necessity to get the information in this little booklet. So just shoot me a message and I will email it over or send you a hard copy, whichever you'd prefer. And just one last reminder that if you would like one of those Mariner schedules, they have arrived. They're ready to send out. So shoot me a message with how I can get that to you, and I'd be happy to send one of these to you. Thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I would love to have a real estate conversation with you about the real estate market in your area or a place you're interested in. But yeah, I'm your real estate resource for the South King County area. Please reach out. And I will see you next week at 3 p.m. on Friday. Have a fantastic week and see you then.